Hi there, Karen Flaherty from Living by Human Design. Hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to talk about the gate 23 in human design weather. And what we've got is ways to break through, ways to talk about stuff that you've probably been wanting to talk about for a while, but haven't had a chance to. Hope you enjoy this. Okay, great. So the energy this week is it started on May 9th, the gate 23. And Sun and in the Earth, we've got the gate 43, which is about breakthroughs. So this is one of those weeks where we have the entire channel between the 43 and the 23 hooked up. So we've got the 43 here and the 23 here. It connects the ajna and the throat. And then in addition to that, we still have this connection between the root and the sacral, which will be going on until the 26th. And so they all stay defined all week. So you've got the ajna, the throat, the sacral, and the root all defined. So if you're not a generator or manifesting generator, you're still going to feel like that. If you don't have a head or ajna defined, you're going to feel like you have your ajna defined this week. Like you can be certain about things, like you can feel like you're certain about things, and that you're perhaps got a little more voice energy as well, especially if that hooks up to a motor, or one of the other transits hooks up to a motor that could make a big difference for you. And so Mercury is still retrograde. It goes direct on the 14th. So just and this is the gate 23 is in until May 15th. So it'll be by the time we talk next week, it'll be gone. And I for one will be happy about that. So we've got as the sun in gate 23 and the earth in 43, and gate 23 is called assimilation. And so what this is it's connected to the 43, right? Anybody who has this in their sun is going to have also the 43. They're going to have that connection between the ajna and the throat. And what it allows is for energy to come through the crown into the ajna and then through into the throat. And what happens is the ideas come through. The 43 is about breakthroughs in thought, and the assimilation coming through the 23 is about the actually speaking, right? It's the articulation of that. It's called assimilation or splitting apart in the original I Ching. Also amorality, which is interesting. The awareness and understanding which leads to the acceptance of diversity. So it's almost like these breakthroughs they can be really, well, we call it the channel of freak to genius, because the things that come through can be very different. They can be really unique, very individual. It's an individual channel, and it's the kind of thing where it can sound kind of weird sometimes. These are the kids with their hands up all the time in the back of class who say, "I know, I know, I know." These are those kids. Okay. So if you knew any of those growing up, or you were one, that's what this energy is. So the 23 to 43, these kids know. And a lot of times they do know. Now, sometimes they don't know at the right time. Sometimes they don't know exactly what the teacher's asking or what the parents are asking, but they know. They have the information up there because they've got the defined ajna. It's interesting the way they describe it is that it leads to the acceptance of diversity, because basically everything that's coming through is kind of unique, but eventually allows for a way that can be spoken without judgment, right? So you're speaking the truth for you, and it's coming out without judgment. So it's purely new concepts, new ways of doing things, new ways of trying things. It can be really interesting stuff, but it has to be at the right timing. So and that's why I say this: the genius can be at the right time. The freakishness stuff can be at the wrong time. And so that's why it's always a kind of a balancing act with this one, because sometimes the stuff doesn't come out quite right. So you just have to kind of laugh about that, or understand that that's part of your makeup, right? That you've got this 2343. These incarnation crosses are the cross of explanation, assimilation, and dedication. And in quantum human design, it's called transmission. And then the breakthroughs are coming through first, right? So the 43 is up above, it's connected to the ajna, and then the 23 is down below. That's the speaking part of it. So the breakthroughs come through, and the breakthroughs can come, you can have just the 43 hanging there as a gate also, but the breakthroughs come through and they're insights. They're in quantum human design, we call it insights. So they're ways of processing the information that's coming in and then having a way to speak it, to have a breakthrough and then be able to speak it to people. And it's the kind of thing where my husband's a good example of this. He's got the 2343 in his birth chart, not in his bunch of sun and earth, but in the birth chart. And so he is somebody who's able to have really complex thoughts, have really work, with computer programs and project management and things like that for IBM, and explain it to the people. And this is, 20, 30 years ago now, but explain it to the people who had no idea what computers and their functions and programming and all that stuff was about. These were all the higher ups at IBM at that point, right? Or whatever company he was working in as a client. And so he was able to explain it to them in a way that made sense to them. And so he knew it was a really complex idea, but this is why we call it simplicity. This is why when we get to the gene keys, it's really about simplicity, because it is. It's taking those really complex ideas and making them understandable to the masses, right? And so you understand, if you happen to know technology and you're good at it, you can help explain it to other people. And when you can simplify it enough to explain it to other people, that's what this gate is. Technology's changed a lot, obviously, but and the tech bros know a lot more about it than the guys who used to be in charge know these days. But when it had to be explained by the young kids coming up who were programming, it was like talking two different languages. And so now it's, most people know about technology and how to talk about it and how to be with it. But in those days, it was like a different language. And so when you can take something that's really complex and simplify it for people, that's what this whole energy is about. So and so they call it, as I said, as part of the individual circuit. The gate 43 is, in order for achievement to be maintained, a new order must be fairly established. That's the breakthrough. And then in the gene keys, deafness is the shadow, insight is the gift, and epiphany is the CD. And as I said, in quantum human design, it's called insight. So with this gene key 23, the shadow is complexity, right? That's the complexity of the breakthrough. On the repressive side, it's he calls it dumb, as in mute, basically not wanting to talk about the complexity. In the reactive side, it's more fragmented. The gift is simplicity. That's basically being able to go from complexity to simplicity and making it available to everyone. And then the CD is quintessence. Graphic, he says simplicity is spaciousness, right? If we can simplify the really complex ideas, it gives us all space to breathe, to understand, to sit with it, perhaps to integrate it, and really get comfortable with that new information that we've received. So he also says, whenever this 23rd shadow speaks, it complicates the situation. And I can tell you that's true, because the shadow, it only lives to make things more complex. It's a little bit, it has nothing to do with the ego at this point. It's not anything about the will center, but those ideas that come through are pretty complex. And if you're just, kind of spouting them out and not thinking about how they're going to be taken by the people that you're talking to, then it's complex. It's complexity. And so when you do figure out how to say it to people in a way that many more will understand, that's the simplicity. So it's really that, being able to take a computer program and express it in one sentence to people so that they understand it, that's simplicity. And, we need that simplicity. There are a lot of things that are complex in the world. That doesn't mean they can't be resolved. That doesn't mean we can't have breakthroughs. That doesn't mean we can't, somehow come up with better solutions for how to solve these problems. We can. We just have to figure out the complexity and allow it to be simplistic. And then the quintessence is the highest, and that's really about in the energy of these breakthroughs and allowing yourself to be in the flow of the breakthroughs and articulating it in a simplistic way for everybody. He also says, if you love simplicity, you will manifest it around you. And so, we can live in complexity if we prefer that. But I think for most people, we prefer the simplicity, so that people can understand, so that we can, basically attract people in to what we're talking about. I mean, a lot of people say that human design is too complex. I don't think it is, but I've been studying it for a long time, and so I try to make it as simple as possible for people, so that you realize that it's not about the titles or the labels or the way that we talk about the different words or jargon in human design. It's really about you. It's about you understanding how you operate and just coming up with words that work, so that you understand how special you are and how you can make your life better if that's what you're up to. So a lot of people born in these, as you can imagine, and as I was looking at it, you try to see the similarities among these people. And I think what you can say is that most of them are pretty bright. These are people who have figured out the freak to genius channel and made it work for them, right? So people like Mark Zuckerberg, who Facebook program and made it work for billions of people around the world. Now, social media is changing somewhat, and so I think we hope that it'll be changing in a way that helps the young people to, and all of us really, not to be as addicted as some people are. George Lucas, people in on stage and screen, and creators. Irving Berlin was a composer. Yogi Berra had the 4323. Who knew, right? But some of those things that he said are among some of the most quoted and most best quotes ever. And so, people might have thought of him as somebody who wasn't that bright, but the things he said were really quite impressive, and still live on to this day. So he has something going there. Salvador Dali, the painter, Bono, who started U2, Katharine Hepburn, Stephen Colbert. There are lots of different people who are on this list. Billy Joel, I mean, amazing musician. So people who are here are people who have figured out how to make this work, how to take the information that they get, the breakthroughs they get, channel perhaps the songs or the information or the concepts that are coming through, and make them available to lots of people. So that's what this week's about. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you're able to come up with a way that, or some breakthroughs perhaps for you, that you're able to articulate in a way that helps the people around you, or your colleagues, or your, perhaps in something you're writing, and make good use of it. Make good use of the energy this week. And for those of you who usually have the open head and Ajna, you'll feel a little more certain this week. So use that to your advantage as well. Be well, and look forward to talking to you next time.